Melee in Mythic Plus. A month or so after the season has started, depending on when you watch this video, we're gonna see where each spec ranks in terms of overall performance and key level clears. Will they still be S tier? Some of them still are S tier. However, you will be surprised about the overall rankings of today's melee tier list and why that is so. Don't skip around just to see the result, man. Come on. Come on. Come on! And we're gonna be starting off with Arms Warrior. And Arms is going to go into B tier, our first spec of the B tier-ish bonanza. Now, what does B tier mean? You might ask. B tier is essentially kind of where specs that cleared 26, 27s are going to go in. Because I kind of distributed all the specs based on what the key levels that they clear are, and that's where Arms is. It's not that bad if you really think about it, 27s-ish, probably much higher by the time you watch this or even by the time the year ends, because, you know, we're just a couple of weeks away. And it's actually really good. I actually didn't think Arms would climb this high. It has always had this really good AoE burst performance where it has a lot of burst shoved into your Blade Storm, Dragon Roar, and everything that you do to kind of just get that out there. And it's kind of the meta also for this season, because we know all the Havocs and all of that stuff are just blasting everywhere. Arms is not necessarily an exception. However, it does struggle a little bit in single target, which is probably why we're not seeing it even higher, even though it is a tanky melee spec. It has some utility that it brings to the party, not a lot, but it's not that bad. Not as bad as... No, it's better. Then, no, it's worse than Assassination. What am I talking about? Dude, Assassination is A tier. Assassination actually climbed the ranks from past weeks of the season, and most likely while we ranked it in the first week of the season. It's been a while, I don't remember exactly where it was, but now it is A tier, and it is actually really good. I mean, we all know that Assassination kind of destroys the raid in terms of single target performance, and coming off the back of last week where we had Tyrannical, definitely Assassination can see a lot of usefulness into the dungeon. I mean, it's A tier, okay? It's still a rogue, it's part of the rework, it's actually a very tanky spec, which definitely helps when you're pushing higher keys, and it's AoE, it's not too shabby. It's a little bit more complicated, and I think people are starting to figure it out more and more as the season progresses, which is probably why we're seeing it more into A tier, since it's not as straightforward as just pressing Blade Flurry, okay, no diss on the Outlaw Rogue, but Assassination is actually cranking, and we love Assassination here on the channel. We even made a specific video for it because we love it so much, and that with a lot more videos you can support by becoming a Patreon on patreon.com/MarcelianOnline. You'll definitely help us create more of this content and more varied content with more topics about classes and specs. Not to mention, you'll also get some goodies because we like to show our gratitude towards the people who support the things that we love to do. And you can, you know, have access to bloopers and see me stutter and do all sorts of stuff on camera. Not to mention that Marcelian makes some of the coolest custom wallpapers for your character, and you can have that as well as part of the Patreon team if you do decide to join, and you can click the link down below and be a part of the team. We appreciate you for it. Thank you. And let's take Outlaw and put it where it belongs, in S for son of a gun. It's still really good. It is really good. I mean, I don't think it's been a surprise. Outlaw has kind of been, although listen, it hasn't been S tier the entire season, right? I think Subcreation kind of ranked it around A tier in the first week of Mythic Plus. And I mean, we remember the first time we've seen Outlaws in Dungeons doing double the damage of everybody else. But listen, now it's solidified into its S tier place. It has really good damage performance. I mean, we always knew Outlaw was really good for Mythic Plus. The only thing that kept it from being S tier consistently was its overall damage performance, which that's not an issue anymore. In terms of its tool and utility, it kind of was made for Mythic Plus. You're going to be seeing a trend like this, and it's not a surprise, really. We've known it for years. It's just really good. Crackshot is the best thing since sliced bread. Now, Survival Hunter, on the other hand, is not seeing the same love and performance, and is gonna go all the way down into C tier. C tier is around where I think 25s and 24s are currently being cleared by the specs. Listen, sure, it's not as high as Outlaw. It's never gonna be as high as Outlaw. but it is pretty high. And even if your argument is, you know, listen, the season is a little bit easier this time around, people are clearing keys higher, sure, but the eye level rewards haven't climbed higher than 20s. They're still capped at 20s. The portals are still at 20. So realistically, whether or not the season is easier, everybody's doing all the content necessary to get everything in the game possible, which is why I cannot put survival into D tier. It's actually able to clear all of the content that you need to clear to get all the things that you need to get into the game, and that goes the same for all of the other C tier specs, one of which is definitely not enhancement, because enhancement is POG. Dude, enhance is really POG. Enhance is A tier. Enhancement has been A tier last season and the season before, and a little bit in Shadowlands as well. Enhancement is really good. The talent changes are really good. It has had some little tweaks going into 10.2, and overall the tier set is pretty good. It's just a very solid spec. I haven't seen an enhancement since 1993, so I don't know exactly how awesome it is to have an enhancement in my team, but I can sure use an elemental, earth elemental that is, sometime. Although we don't really lack bloodlust, since augmentation is all you see in every keys, but enhancement does have that in its repertoire, if you want to call it that, and the plethora of totems that you can access through your utility kit definitely helps in dealing with certain dungeon packs, dungeon mechanics, and things like that. Although you'd probably not want to go too far into getting all of the utility, because you might have to sacrifice a little bit of damage. Enhancement, general talent tree, it's not the best, it's not the worst, but you know, it does its job, clearly, because it put the spec all the way into A tier. Feral is all the way average of the pack, actually. Now, I actually thought Feral was going to go a lot higher. I think even in the predictions, I might have ranked it a little bit higher, because tier set sounds really good for dungeons. The damage profile of about 20 to 30 seconds with Feral Frenzy Burst seems really good. It just doesn't seem to translate that well into overall performance. And I've played Feral. I think it's really good. I can do my 20s just easy, and I'm a dumbass. Surely Ferals can do a lot better, and they are, because they are B tier. They're, let's say, above average, right? If B tier is average, top of the B tier is just maybe slightly above average. It's doing really well, it's doing okay. It's not balanced druid, and it probably will never be balanced druid, but if you want to be a kitty cat, you can do it. Plus you're tankier than a balanced druid, I think. Survival instincts, baby. Frost DK is a sad story to tell to your kids. Don't. If you tell them, at least tell them the story of obliteration, because you're definitely not playing Breath of Citragosa, and it's going down into C tier. It's slightly worse than Survival Hunter. Also, similar to Feral, I really thought that Chill Shriek will put Frost Decay back on the map. It just doesn't feel like it's doing that. Now, we're still just getting the legendary weapon for most of the Strength 2-handers. So, I don't know if that will change too much. The legendary weapon was upgraded, and Frost Decay usually likes crit and mastery. Now, I don't know if that will rank it higher, because, you know, Arms Warrior is probably gonna use that legendary. Fury Warrior is definitely gonna use that legendary. Too bad it cannot use it twice, because it's already A tier, and with 2 legendaries, it's gonna knock Havoc out of the park. It's not gonna happen. There's not enough legendaries in the world to put Fury into S tier, but so far it is A tier, and it actually is doing really well. Not a lot to say about Fury Warrior. It didn't get any buffs, it didn't get any nerfs, it didn't get any changes whatsoever. It's just doing really well. It's kind of the same old story with Fury Warrior, where it does better and better as it acquires more and more gear. It's so boring to constantly say it's scaling better than Arms, but it is, if you want to call it that way. It's doing better than Arms consistently almost every season ever since we've been doing tier lists. So there you go. The fact that it is A tier is slightly surprising. It is clearing 28. I think it might edge closer to 29s, but it might be a little while until it gets there. Its AoE is similar to Outlaw in terms of the way you deal damage, and you have access to damage. You just pop Whirlwind, and then your single target becomes AoE. You have some burst with Odin's Fury, which is always really good, and the tier set definitely puts that back into your kit, which is really great. You might not see Fury S tier because it is AoE capped. I mean, you know, Outlaw is also AoE capped, but Outlaw's damage is just cranked. Similar to Havoc. Holy dog, dude. Havoc is seeing its day, man. S tier all the way. We probably should have made an S plus tier just for Havoc. But to be fair, it's actually doing the same level of keys as Outlaw. I mean, if people could run 3 Havocs, they would probably run 3 Havocs, and I know some people have been clearing 28s with no healers, so there are some crazy things happening in Mythic Plus at this point, and one of those crazy things is playing Havoc in your team, because it's crazy. Look at the damage, it's just everywhere. Now, it's not getting any more nerfs. Now, I don't know why that is, and to be fair, I think I'm fine with it. I am not a Havoc player, I'm a Druid player, I'm middle of the bell curve. But I would much rather, see Survival, Frost, and other specs from around C tier get buffs than have it getting nerfs. Because I kind of really secretly want to see plus 40s being done by the end of the season. Although that sounds a little bit unlikely, it's more likely than any time before, then definitely that's probably going to see a Havoc Demon Hunter unless it gets tanked, which this close to Christmas, come on Blizz, don't tank Havoc. You're just gonna make a lot of people sad, and we don't want that. We want Santa to bring smiles, like it did for Ret Paladin, which is seeing very good days all the way into A tier. Better than Assassination. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily surprising because its AoE is just cranking, definitely the theme of this week with Fortified and Bolstering, dude. And the fact that it has all of its damage packed in the first 0.3 seconds of a pool. God damn it, stop taking my aggro. I need to keep aggro on the pack so you don't die, silly Rets. That's okay, they just pop bubble and they just deal with it. Ret is just really, really good. It could use a little bit of single target help, which is probably kind of an interesting dynamic between Ret and Assassination, since Assassination single target is definitely God tier, while Ret's AoE is still really, like, I don't understand how after no nerfs, no buffs, Ret is just climbing higher and higher almost every season. Although, to be fair, if you really look at Subcreation's overall depiction of Ret for all of these weeks kind of combined, it's kind of the only A tier spec, and it's better than all of this melee specs except the S tier things. So maybe Red is a little bit higher, but considering the level of keys that it's doing as of recording this video, I'm gonna put it behind Fury Warrior, and that's where it's gonna be, and you're gonna be okay with it. Maybe not as okay with where I'm gonna be placing Subtlety. And listen, I do have to preface this, since I know somebody in the comments is gonna say that Subtlety is probably my favorite melee spec of the season, which is something that I never thought I would say. I never thought Subtlety was a bad spec, but I never thought it was gonna be my favorite spec, and still, it's the bottom of the barrel. Guys, we need to do something about the C tier. C stands for caca in this sense, because it needs more help. Now, Subtlety probably has some of the most interesting ways of dealing its damage, but it's just lacking the in raids. It's seeing a resurgence, so maybe there's some single target potential there. But in the week of Fortified and Bolstering to boot, this is just not Subtlety's cup of tea, and that's just a shame, because that's kind of what Mythic Plus is supposed to be about. So I'm really hoping that we see a little bit of help into C tier, because they need it, guys. They need it a little bit. Not as much as Unholy, but Unholy is definitely doing a lot better. B tier, I mean, Unholy has been a little bit better than the bottom of the barrel, but B tier is a little bit higher than I expected Unholy to be. Just looking at the past couple of tier lists that we've done and the overall Warcraft logs, I mean, when Marcelian plays Unholy, he just slaps, and that's a given. So maybe it makes a little bit of sense, because even the tier set is actually working in favor of Unholy with all of the Shadow Ball volleys that the Maguses are doing. They're just doing their crazy things all the time. You don't need to worry about that. But at the very least, listen, if Unholy is not going to be S tier, at the very most, put it above average, and that's kind of where B tier is. B tier is? That's not a word. So I'm just gonna be moving on to Windwalker and not putting into B tier, but put it actually into C tier. Maybe it's not as bad as, you know, the other C tier specs, but it's still one of the specs that I think that the entire community can agree needs some, man. They keep buffing Sunkick for some reason. I mean, it's not for some reason. It's just kind of poop. Probably the worst melee spec in the raid, probably. But it's just not doing it, Chief. The talent design for Dragonflight has been interesting with, you know, all the touch of death shenanigans. But it's just not there, man. It's just not there. And I feel like it just doesn't really have a way to deal that. Like, I can see Subtlety outpacing Windwalker, okay? And if we look at, once again, at the Subcreation's depiction of this season's overall performance, outside of just this week's Fortified, we can see Subtlety being overall better than Windwalker. Windwalker probably takes the cake on Fortified weeks, which is why Windwalker is at the top of the C tier and Sub at the bottom of the C tier. but that's just how it is. But that doesn't really matter because fun is also really important, which I don't know about Windwalker, but I do know about subtlety, and we already have a video on subtlety that you can click right here and understand why sub is so good, such a good spec, despite it being at the bottom of the barrel. Meta is not always important, guys. Click the video, watch, sub is really good, you should play it now.